Hello, everyone. Figured real quick I'd hop on, share my thoughts on OB37's new cards and new card changes. I've tried playing around with most of them to get a feel for how they play and what situations they're good in, and I wanted to share my thoughts with you. So first off, we have Discordia. She's a uh, she's a fun little janky card. I do kind of really like her, but I don't feel that she just fits well into a normal competitive Roman deck. Primarily because by the time you would get into a situation where you can play her profitably, you already have control of the game because a lot of the good Roman cards are higher cost. That being said, I have built a deck specifically for her, and it actually plays fairly well, and it's a really fun deck to play. It's not rounded out enough to be competitive for ranked yet. I don't think. We might try that later and post a video on it. We'll see. Uh, but yeah, she's just fun. She really is. Um, After her, we have Insight for Hindu. I am not a huge fan of having to spend mana and a turn to change my leader ability. It just makes me feel like I'm getting behind in the curve and losing a turn essentially. Um, the ability is nice. To get a choice of what card you want out of I believe three. However, I would rather just have another value card there at 3 mana and build on board presence. It's just personal preference. Um, Mana Burst is next, and I am not a fan of this card at all. It seems like it. I'm not a fan of cards that depend on your opponent to be playing badly for them to be good. If they're playing well, this shouldn't do more than 3 or 4 damage. And at that point in time, again, I'd rather have something for board presence. Chinese already has so many spells that do so many different things. Just doing a quick direct damage to the opponent's stone is it just I don't know. It just seems like a waste. If it were an option to do it to a creature or the stone, maybe, but I'm just not a fan of it. It seems like a win more card, and I'd rather play without it. Uh, Finally, on the new cards list, we have Transmute Dead from Mayan. And at first, when I first saw this card, I also was not a fan of this card either. However, in playing it, getting a 4/4 on turn 2 is nice. And again, if you have a deck kind of geared toward it, being able to interact with your graveyard properly and everything else, it's gold. Getting a 4/4 on turn 2 is, with, no, not on turn 2, getting a 4/4 with 2 mana is dangerous and puts you ahead of the curve so fast. Some of the reworked cards, let's go through these real quick. Celestial Armor. I love the idea of this card. I hate that it costs 8. By the time turn 8 comes and you play it, again, you should either have control or not have control. It's not really going to turn the tides for you. It, if it cost a little less, yeah, I'd play with it more, but honestly, I can't. I'd rather be playing my Isis on turn 8 or a Fire Giant than trying to play this on a creature, hope it lives yet another turn, and then hope by that point in time in the game I still have things to target it with, because you can't count on your opponent to target it. And if they do, yeah, again, you'll get a 4/4 copy of it, but then that's where the fun stops. So it's basically giving a card afterlife for 8. Kraken Greek. Again, I don't like cards that you have to pretty much waste a turn to change your leader ability. When it was bundled with Poseidon, loved it. Because then you were getting a little bit of board presence, you were changing your leader ability, switching up your playstyle mid-game, and throwing your opponent for a little bit of a loop. Now it's just, I've tried playing with it, I really have, and it seems like I'd rather have other cards in my deck to draw into than Kraken. It's just the way I feel. Now, if all these cards that replace your leader ability were automatic, if that card was included in your deck, and when you drew it and played it, it did an additional effect and then reverted your leader ability back to whatever it should have been, that might be a more interesting thing, and I might actually play that. However, I can't help but feel, like I said, I'm losing a turn by playing a card to change my leader ability. Now, Poseidon, on the other hand, I love. This card is ridiculous. It is basically a tide turner. You got to be careful that you don't bounce cards back to your opponent's hands that have Warcry that will give them an extra opportunity to capitalize on their Warcries. However, you can wipe out a whole row of their whole presence and fill your hand back up with value cards. Have a creature on board to give a board presence. It's ridiculous. Absolutely love this card. Sacrifice. This is another card I was iffy on, and after playing with it, it is fun. I do really like this card. I've made a deck. Hopefully, I'll put a video up on this one as well, showing exactly how this interacts well with the afterlife and everything else. But we'll see. I got to get it refined a little bit more as well. But its interaction with afterlife, it's just unreal. And when I get that video up, you guys, you'll see. And Void Zone. I haven't played with this, admittedly, but a Mass Silence for 4 mana, it doesn't seem bad. Silence is at a premium. There's only a handful of cards that do it. Now there's more, obviously. Or, not necessarily more. It got moved from another Pantheon. But it doesn't seem bad. I just don't play mine enough to really get into how well it plays and what decks it should be in. But, yeah, those are my thoughts. Figured it'd be real quick. Hopefully I'll have the 2 videos on the Discordia deck and my Sacrifice deck, which I believe I'm calling Death and Taxes. So stay tuned for those, and let me know how you feel.